Hi, I'm Steve Hargadon, and I want to invite you to join us for the first ever online Tiny House Summit, February 20th to the 24th. We have some great speakers. I hope you enjoy the following preview clips. Each day of our 5-day event will have free presentations for you to watch, with over 30 in total. Please do sign up to join us at tinyhousesummit.com, and we'll see you online.
Our tiny house journey kind of started from a very interesting place that I'm not sure is very typical for most tiny house people. But it actually started way before we ever thought about building an actual house. When we were in our late 20s, we moved from Michigan to Georgia, and we decided that from there, we didn't want to live a conventional life. So what we started doing was saving money to be able to build something or buy something or do something that was a little bit different. And all that led to us buying a piece of property near Asheville, North Carolina in 2007. And we started building our tiny house in 2009. And ours is on a foundation, and we built it ourselves, myself and my husband. And we finished it in 2012. So it took us 3 total years to actually build the house. And then I was able to quit my full-time job, and we moved into the tiny house, and yeah, things haven't been the same since. The entire point of building a tiny house for us was to completely change our lifestyle. And one of the things that I wanted to do, I've always wanted to do, was be a writer. And that was ultimately impractical most of the time. Everybody told me I had to have a job with insurance, and I couldn't do this. I couldn't do this on my own. And building the tiny house became the catalyst to doing that. With a tiny house, and we didn't have a mortgage. Ours is off the grid, so we don't have utility bills and things like that. And so I didn't feel like I was drowning. I didn't feel like I was trapped. So I was able to quit my job and start working for myself. And now I work from home as a freelance writer. Because of building the tiny house, because of the savings, and because of the complete change of our lifestyle, we were actually able to then afford a bungalow in the city of Asheville, a little 700 square foot house, which is where I am right now. And but it was because of those financial decisions that we were able to do this. We still have the tiny house. We were actually just up there yesterday doing some work on the land, filming some videos, because we do that sometimes. So we're really grateful to have the best of both worlds now. But ultimately for me, it was never about the house. It was always about a complete change of lifestyle. And we don't have to live in 120 square feet to live simply and live deliberately. You can do that from anywhere. And those are the lessons that we took with us from that experience. We lived in it for the first year after we quit our jobs and moved up to Asheville. So we lived in it for a year. We know exactly how to live in an off-grid house. But then we had this opportunity that we couldn't pass up, so we took that too. Matt and I were able to help found the Asheville Small Home Advocacy Committee with several other tiny house people within the community. There's a tiny house business in town that originally began building houses on wheels, and then through this process started building accessory dwelling units. Because what we did learn from the city was that living in a tiny house is actually perfectly legal as long as it's on a foundation. So there's no real minimum size requirements in Asheville. So what we did instead was work with the city to make it easier to build small homes on foundations. And you can absolutely build a tiny house as an accessory dwelling unit. So you have to have a primary dwelling unit, a bigger house, and then build a small house in the backyard. And it can be up to 70% the size, but it doesn't have to even be that big. And they made it really easy for that to be done, which is something that's picking up steam here in Asheville. Yep, financing is probably the biggest hurdle. Banks still don't know what to do with little houses because there's no competitive market for it. So there's no comps to know how much a tiny house is worth. So if you want to build a 200 square foot house or a 300 square foot house on a small lot, they don't know how to do that. They don't know how that financing is going to work because there aren't other, 300 square foot houses on the market to compare it to. So financing is a big deal. When you buy a piece of land, a bank doesn't want the house to be worth less than the piece of land. So they have struggles with that. So if you buy a large piece of land and want to build a small house, that becomes kind of a disparity for a lot of people. So financing is one of the biggest problems. I think it's always possible that the movement will just sort of become overtaken by the product, and it'll turn into something that's less desirable. But I think there will always be that kind of undercurrent, hopefully, of risk takers, of people that use this as a catalyst to do something else, and have it, not be about the house, have it be about profoundly changing your life.